Hello, welcome to the Hands-On History. Irish Soldier in International Service display. We're displaying this weekend at the Irish Military Museum in Collin in County Meath in Ireland. Now, part of our display, we display Irish soldiers who have served over generations and in some instances over centuries. Within the ranks of the United States, we'll cover France, and we'll cover the United Kingdom and the UK Commonwealth as well. We start off with Irish soldiers who served in the United States Armed Services. The first exhibit here is the uniform of a federal soldier during the American War, the American Civil War. He wears a dark blue tunic carrying an Enfield percussion musket, not a percussion rifle. Irish regiments had a particular preference for smoothbore percussion muskets that fired what's called buck and ball ammunition. That's a 6.9 caliber ball and three 36 caliber shots of buckshot. The range of these was anywhere from 60 to say 110, maybe 120 yards, much shorter than the range of a rifled musket. But within that range, buck and ball ammunition was absolutely devastating. And they served in this uniform up until approximately 1903, when they started adopting this. When they adopted this khaki uniform, along with the Springfield 1903 rifle. This particular model that's on display here is pattern 19 of 17. When the United States found itself embroiled in the Great War in Europe, they found themselves, like the British found themselves, with not enough rifles to supply a conscripted army. So this pattern of rifle was already being manufactured for the British by three factories in the United States, by Winchester, by Remington, and Remington of Eddystone. By 1917, the British contract had been fulfilled, and these three factories were already geared up to produce rifles, and were producing rifles for France, were producing rifles for Russia. But the American War Department saw this pattern. It could easily be converted to that 30-06 caliber, which was on service with the American forces at that time, and they produced this pattern of rifle, which is the rifle 30 caliber pattern 1917, and these were actually the most common rifle in service with the American forces during World War I in France. They outnumbered the Springfield pattern 1903 by a factor of about 2 to 1. Now, both of these regiments, both of these exhibits rather, were with the 69th New York Infantry Volunteers. They are a predominantly Irish regiment. They came from the Hell's Kitchen area of New York, which is a predominantly Irish area in New York, and they were enlisted from the Irish immigrants who lived in that area. Now, as time would go on, Hell's Kitchen would become more homogenous. There were people from kind of all over who became residents in Hell's Kitchen. So it kind of the Irish presence there became less. However, that didn't mean the Irish presence in the United States became less. Many first generation or second generation or even Irish immigrants who had landed in the United States in the 1930s or 40s found themselves fighting with American forces in World War II, in Europe, and in the Pacific. This exhibit here is an exhibit of the pattern of 1942 paratrooper jumpsuit, along with the M1 Garand rifle and 30-06. This particular uniform was issued to all paratroopers. It was initially designed for general use by everybody in North Africa, but that didn't happen. but it was very, very more appropriate. This uniform was far more appropriate to paratroop regiments or parachute regiments with the amount of extra pockets and so on. They could carry extra gear because paratroopers are fighting with whatever they can carry in with them. So the extra pockets were very, very convenient. Move on. Here we have this exhibit is jungle fatigues, and we again many Irish had served in the American forces in Vietnam, and also served with Australian forces in Vietnam. Anywhere Irish immigrants went, they fought in those armies. So in this instance, it's the United States. We're going to carry on now to Irish soldiers who served for France. And here we have our Hands in History banner, which proudly displays the display Irish soldier in international service. And here we have soldiers in service with France. The French Foreign Legion, established in 1831. The monarch at the time, King Louis Philippe, had a problem with a lot of unemployed soldiers who had served for France. Prior to that, a lot of Swiss, German, it would have been Prussian at that time, Swiss and Prussian, and also Irish soldiers from the Légion Irlandaise who had served with Napoleon with great distinction during the Napoleonic Wars. Now had found themselves unemployed and no wars to fight. So the new French acquisitions in North Africa and Algeria needed soldiers, and instead of sending French soldiers who were more highly valued than foreigners, foreign soldiers were enlisted into these foreign regiments and sent off to North Africa or anywhere else that the French Empire had a presence. North Africa, Indochina, which is now Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. Those were all previously were French holdings, and French legionnaires served there, and these included many Irish soldiers who had left Ireland to serve in France, because France at that time was still a predominantly Catholic country. They didn't want to serve the British Army, who would have been a Protestant king. They would much rather serve a Catholic king. So they went to France to serve a Catholic king. They served in the 1st and 2nd REI, which is the Regiment Étranger Infantry. They served in North Africa. They also served in Mexico. Many people who would have been involved in the Fenian risings in the 1860s got themselves out of Ireland and enlisted in the French Foreign Legion, where they wouldn't be sent back to face prison in Ireland for being Fenians. These included John Devoy, also John O'Kelly, who had run away after their Fenian hangments in Ireland. Served in the Foreign Legion in Mexico and also in North Africa, and went on to serve in the Franco-Prussian War. In the intervening times, they would occasionally leave the ranks of the Foreign Legion to go get themselves in more Fenian trouble, wherever it may be, whether it be in Ireland or the incursion from the United States into Canada. We move along. We have, go back. This uniform stayed in service for a very, very long time. It's when people think of the French Foreign Legion, this is kind of what they think of. They think of the pantalon rouge, the red pants, the long blue great coat, and la kepi blanc, which is the white kepi. Now this is just a cover which goes over the kepi to stop it being bleached white by the sun, which is where the Legion gets its most famous identifier. Most thing that people identify with the Legion most commonly is la kepi blanc, is the white kepi. And it became a white kepi because it was bleached by the sun in North Africa. This uniform stayed in service all the way from the kind of 1850s, the Crimean War, up to the very beginning of the Great War. and only for the Great War went on as long as they did, they probably wouldn't have changed it. But in the trenches of the Great War, this was highly identifiable, so they changed to horizon blue. They also changed from what would have been a single-shot black powder rifle, they used the Gras and the Remington, to French-made Lebel and Berthier rifles. This example here is a Berthier rifle, a Berthier 5-shot rifle, model 1892, and this stayed in service into World War II. The French tend to use things a long time. They use it until it's completely worn out. After they had adopted a new cartridge, they even upgraded these to the new cartridge 7.5 and put them back into service. We move along. Again, Irish soldiers serving the French Foreign Legion. They served on two sides of World War II. Some served with the Free French Forces based in the UK, and then went on missions to France after the liberation of France, and also in Operation Torch, the invasion of North Africa, which was also being held by regiments of the French Foreign Legion. So this was an instance of French Foreign Legion soldiers fighting other French Foreign Legion soldiers. The fight didn't last long. They both decided that serving France was the best thing over serving Germany and Italy. So they put the differences aside and joined forces and joined with the Americans and British to take on the Germans in North Africa. We move along. Currently, well, not currently in service. It's been changed lately. This here is desert pattern. Would have been worn by legionnaires during Operation Dajou, which was the French name for Operation Desert Storm in the 1990s. Again, there was one regiment of the Foreign Legion, which would have also included Irish soldiers who served during Operation Dajou. We'll move on now to our British display. Here we have our display of Irish soldiers who served within the United Kingdom and its Commonwealth. The first exhibit we have is a representation of the Royal Dublin Fusiliers. The Royal Dublin Fusiliers became into existence in the 1880s after the previous regiments of the Honourable East India Company, which were mustered out of existence, and those soldiers were folded into and created the Royal Dublin Fusiliers. These soldiers were all Irish from Dublin anyway. They would have been soldiers for the Honourable East India Company stationed in India. Now the Royal Dublin Fusiliers, we move on, they also saw service and did distinguish themselves quite well during the Second Boer War from 1899 to 1902. We don't have a representation of that, but we do have a representation of the Royal Dublin Fusiliers as they would have been in the trenches of France and also in the Dardanelles in the Gallipoli campaign. You see they've gone from their red tunics, which after the black powder era of military campaigning to smokeless powder, no need to kind of kid people out in bright red anymore. Didn't have to be seen amongst a lot of black powder smoke. Smokeless powder was now a thing, and small bore rifles. So they changed to this khaki, heavy wool, very serviceable uniform. Very serviceable as long as you were in Ireland or Britain, where it's kind of temperate climate, not so much in India or North Africa, or the Mesopotamia, where it was extremely hot. And we move along. We have representation here now from the Irish Regiment of Canada from World War II. There were Irish regiments in Canada also, like there was Scottish regiments in Canada. And these these men saw service in World War II in the fighting in Sicily, Italy, and also in France when the invasion of France became the invasion of France in 1944. So Irishmen, to the tune of tens of thousands of them, between all the regiments of the British and Commonwealth armies. We're talking about Canadian regiments, Australian regiments who would have had a lot of Irish serving in them too, and South African regiments which would have had Irish soldiers fighting in them also. And we move on to DPM. DPM became, started being issued in the very late 1960s to the 1970s, and kind of adopted by everybody in the 1980s. We have the L1A1 rifle, which was the first self-loading rifle issued to British troops, and the pattern 1958 webbing. This stayed in service until the 1990s. The L1A1 also stayed in service until the 1990s, and start getting replaced by the L85 bullpup rifle. But this one here is a representation of any of the Irish regiments currently serving the British Army, the Royal Irish Fusiliers or the Royal Irish Regiment. They all kind of wear a carbine, such as this, and DPM. They use an L85 rifle right now, but prior to that, what they used was the L1A1 self-loading rifle. So, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed our presentation. Please look us up on Facebook, Hands on History, or you can look up on YouTube, Irish PewTuber, and you will find uploads from us there. Thank you very much. Good day.